Today, we're going to have a coffee with Mark Alexander. His name is linked to a lot of stuff, such as ARX, adaptive resistance exercise, efficient exercise, and Paleo FX. We recorded this during pandemic in 2020. And any information about ARX, please reach out to podcast@alchemista.me. For a better experience, I will suggest you to go on YouTube, since we have some videos to show you. Just take this opportunity to subscribe to our channel and click on the bell. We will know more about Mark, his workout routine, why sweat is not indicative of a good and efficient workout. We'll talk about responders versus not responders when talking about fitness training and resistance training and much, much, much more. But now time is running out. It's time to have a coffee. So please sit and enjoy this conversation with Mark Alexander.
So, first of all, thank you for being here. First of all, we met, I think, a couple of years ago. Or...
It was in June. It would be 2 years ago, I believe. That's right. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. It was Dr. Doug McGrath as well. So, I got some information, some bio from your previous interviews with Bulletproof, with Dave Asprey, and with 21 Studios. And yesterday, I realized that ARX is also sponsoring the Resistance Exercise Conference.
Yes, yeah. We've taken part in that. I think the last several years. Yeah, and it's a good group of practitioners that are very focused on high intensity training and good practices, both programming as well as business practices around high intensity training businesses. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I have this set of books here. We are not going through each one of them, but these are just
I'm going to be
some
here for
topics.
a long time, it looks like.
Yes. It's all the books that we will basically touch base everything, including this one, because you are the man behind the Paleo FX, and also this one, because yesterday, also during the webinar with I think James Steele, Dr. James Steele, was talking about the stress and workout recovery, which that's a very good topic, and I would like to know if you have any thought about it. So I read about your early age, and you are the founder of Efficient Exercise, and then in 2009, I think ARX, which stands for Adaptive Resistance Exercise Technology. I would like to ask some question about yourself, how your passion started for this industry and the wellness and the health.
Yeah, for sure. At a very early age, I had my mom likes to say I was lifting weights before I was out of diapers. So we had a backyard barn, wooden structure that was a gym. And it was a very well-equipped gym at the time in the 70s and 80s. And so that was kind of my playground growing up. And I didn't realize how much of a blessing that truly was later in life. But yeah, it was very instrumental in my upbringing. And then also kind of along came Nautilus, and the Nautilus gym came to our town. And when I saw that, kind of eyes wide open, like, oh, wow, what is all this? This is even better equipment than what I have. And so, my father was instrumental in that. He's a retired physician, but he was always kind of an exercise as medicine physician, and always advocated for resistance training. And so that made an impact on me as well. So that's kind of how the passion part of it started. And like many young guys, I kind of thought initially it'd be a lot of fun to go work with athletes and maybe work at the university or work in a professional setting, professional athletics, and quickly realized that there's a lot of bureaucracy. There's a lot of ingrained thoughts and habits, and maybe my philosophies weren't going to align. And so quickly realized that the entrepreneur in me wanted to go, start my own thing. So that's what I did. Opened up Efficient Exercise in February of 2001. So after being super slow certified and growing up with high intensity training, I saw you broke out one of Dr. Ellington Darden's books.
Yep.
Yeah, my father and Elle grew up in the same town and graduated in the same high school class together.
Coincidence.
and then Ken Hutchins would attribute my father to also inspiring him to get into resistance training. So my dad built him his first weight bench, and at the time it was a musical pursuit to be better at music because they're both musicians first, and then they went into other careers. But so anyway, so the lineage is there, and it's just been a part of my DNA for a long time. So
that's cool. That's cool. I didn't know about that. And I got a mail exchange with Ken because he's recently released one book. I would like to interview him. After efficient exercise, so you've been applying what you learned and during the early years, and then how the idea of creating ARX.
Yeah, so efficient exercise was based around high intensity training principles, super slow. How are we going to integrate this? And as I started, seeing hundreds and hundreds of clients, and not just me, but we grew to at one time 5 locations, and then I kind of sold them off over those last years to focus on ARX. But we learned a lot, and one thing that's been known but was always difficult for practical nature was eccentric loading and the benefits of negative training or eccentric training. And but the practical ways and the safe ways to do that were very difficult. We had a lot of experimentation and a lot of things I still see going on where there's a lot of trainer assist going on, physically holding up the weight and then allowing it back down, things like that. And then again, all directionally kind of going where I feel like we evolved to, which was development of ARX. So how could we solve these problems? How could we do it in a consistent manner? How could we do it in a safe manner? And what's the most efficient and effective way to do it? And this is kind of the culmination of ARX. So like many entrepreneurial stories, it was, how do I satisfy my own itch, if you will? Yeah. And it was, I wanted to develop these tools for my own business. Then there was a crossroads, maybe 5-6 years ago, where it was, I knew intuitively that I didn't want to go forward with opening up a lot of facilities myself. I thought there'd be more impact and more benefit to more people if I just focused on the tools and use those tools to help others. So that's kind of where ARX kind of, I guess you'd say, springboarded and grew. Roughly 2016 is kind of when we really launched, if you will. So yeah.
4 years ago. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you. Before going deep into the ARX, just a brief one about the paleo effects.
Yeah.
How did it start? Why?
Yeah. So
between the two things.
Yeah, well, I think, again, exercise is medicine, as I alluded to earlier, but exercise is also just a portion of kind of our holistic health, if you will. I mean, what we eat, how we sleep, how we recover, there's so many variables. And so the genesis of Paleo FX was, I was there, I would call it more in a supportive role, in that from a financial perspective and from a strategic perspective, Keith and Michelle Norris probably really drove that a lot more than I did in terms of what they have continued to do. But the genesis was, where does all this theory kind of meet practice and practical? And we wanted to create a forum and a platform for people to talk about that and meet about that. And whether it was business-oriented topics or nutrition-related topics or all of the above, really there was, there wasn't much of a limit, if you will, on what the topics would be, so long as they were centered around the practical implementation of solid health practices. So, and it really opened up my eyes to a couple of things. One is just, I would say, more the global or holistic view of health. Again, exercise is the foundation. There's so many, benefits there. But there's so many other variables. It also showed me that events, thousands of people coming together wear me out.
Yeah,
And
I can imagine.
yeah. So I'd much rather, this type of interaction for me is much easier and preferred than just, large events. And so eventually I kind of pulled away from that because it was, just an energy suck in many ways.
Yeah,
but yet I still see the potential. Here we are in quarantine status, and I don't know the future of events like that, other than they're going to have to change and adapt, like we always have as a species. And so we'll see kind of how that happens. But I hope we can be creative and adapt to what's in front of us, and still get people together, still get ideas out there. But it might not be 2,000 people in a room.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I fully agree. I did appreciate the webinar yesterday with for the resistant exercise conference. I was very late here in Europe, so I missed the majority of that. But I know that there are recordings now around, so I would see.
Yeah.
But this, I think, the virtual meetings, virtual gatherings. I think this is a good spot in the future. So. So let's go back to ARX. So are you able to tell me 5 whys? So I've been thinking from the ARX, the 5 whys, the main ones.
So are you asking what are our products, or what do they do?
Yeah, in terms of the concept, and you already mentioned a couple of the main, so efficiency and negative.
Yeah. As you alluded to earlier, adaptive resistance exercise. So we use electric motors to be the resistance source. So it's not a gravity-based system. So the advantages there are, you can have the system adapt to the user versus try to guess a static or oftentimes static weight, and that being hopefully good for the user. So what we like to illustrate is, as you're going through, say, a chest press or bench press type of movement, you can lower the eccentric resistance much more than you can lift. And so, in layman's terms, go ahead.
If you want, I can share as quick this one. You see this?
Yeah. There we go.
Hey, we can comment straight on that.
We can talk through it real quickly. Yeah. So again, this is a leg press exercise on our alpha machine. And so at the concentric, as he's pressing out now, you only have so much force output, but on the eccentric, or the lowering as it's coming back in this case to him, you have so much more potential. Thank you for the visual here. And so that's very important, because we can maximize our loading and adapt to the user. And so what we see is that the stimulus or the dose is very condensed and doesn't take very long. So there's an efficiency factor there, but there's also an effectiveness, because the momentary force output here, as it's going through, is higher every millisecond, if you will, and that has more muscle damage, more hypertrophic response, a variety of benefits. And it's not that resistance training period or high intensity training doesn't have these benefits. We just find that these are, I guess you'd say, a more potent dose of those same benefits that we can find with ARX. Thank you for that visual. I hope
no
helps.
Problem. I just collected what I can. And this is you see, these are just 3. It is 1 minute something. So.
Also, and on those 3 reps, so the black is the concentric, or kind of the pressing force in this case, and the red is the eccentric or the resisting force. And kind of everywhere in between there, between those 2 horizontal lines, is kind of what you can't get with weights.
Exactly.
You have to select a weight that you could continue to get past that point in terms of the black peak every time.
Okay.
But you would never be able to experience kind of that extra eccentric loading. And also, it doesn't, with just 3 or 4 reps, it doesn't show this as drastically as if you're doing more repetitions or more time under tension, but the fatigue starts to happen. And fatigue, you know, is something that is different for everybody based on muscle fiber type. And so when you have something that's adaptive to that user, the fatigue happens according to what that user should have versus, you know, trying to guess what that weight should be in fatigue. So again, I say all this in that I never like to be the guy that says normal weight training can't work. It does work. It's just there are some efficiencies, some safety concerns, especially with eccentric loading, and arguably some effectiveness that is lost because it's not the adaptive system like that.
Yeah, very clear. Thank you. Yeah. And as we are here talking about safety, so your experience with client during this year, because people may be concerned there is this sort of robot moving and
yeah. So exercise robots. Yeah. So because the system is adaptive, what that also means it's kind of an equal and opposite in physics terms. So you know, it's only going to give you that equal and opposite force. So if you cannot produce X amount of force, you won't get X amount of force, or if that force is too much. So as long as the range of motion is proper and the form is good, which again, those are going to be consistent no matter what type of resistance you're using. You want good form, and you want the range of motion to be good, perfect for the human that is performing the exercise. So the benefit is that from a safety perspective, if you were pressing or if you were pulling and you wanted to just stop, you can stop. The robot will do its thing, but you don't have to apply pressure. Or, oh, my shoulder kind of hurts. Well, just stop. And so with weights, you know, if you're in the middle of a squat or a bench press, like that weight has to come back down. It's always trying to go to the center of the earth. And so there are times when that is very dangerous. So we can maximize safety in that way, and that, you know, if you want to just stop, or at any point in time there's a stop button, just hit stop.
I fully agree. And so range of motion is the base of everything, and it's also a good practice because I tried the machines in Barcelona. You kick my ass a little bit, just a couple of exercises, and then in Madrid, a friend of mine in Madrid, Daniel in Mitolab, and a good practice is maybe to start slowly the first 2 reps, just sort of warm up, intrinsic warm up, and then go for the full rep.
Yes, exactly. It's most likely in most cases kind of the middle of the bell curve, not wise to just go 100% right from the beginning. You know, there are some people that can do that, but most people, that's not necessarily the protocol that's the safest. So
as you mentioned the protocol, I love the joke you mentioned with Doug McGuff for concern the Big Five, because I'm going to interview him next week. I will also mention this joke because he said that people are taking the Big Five as the only way to gain benefits. So, but we know that with the ARX and the 2 machines, we are able to do a wider range of exercise, including isometrics and other stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they were designed around compound exercises, and I'm sure your audience will know what that means, but it's multi-joint movements, like a pull down, for example. It involves multi-muscle groups and multi joints. And so, ARX was designed around those movements, like a leg press, say chest press, a row, a pull down, bigger movements. But you can do other things. You can do biceps, triceps. You can even do hinging movements like deadlift or Romanian deadlift. You can do squatting, belt squatting. So there are a variety of exercises you can still do. And again, we think most people want kind of all the, or I guess the most bang for the buck is a phrase here. I don't know if it translates as well. So but that people are looking for the most out of their workout, and compound exercises tend to give you the most out of your workout. So that's why we designed it around those exercises. And yeah, the specific ones, I feel like people get too attached to certain specific ones. I try to break it down even simpler to kind of 3 movement patterns with arguably a 4th, but kind of whatever upper body push you want to do, whether it's an angle here or here, to me, as long as it's joint friendly. Some type of upper body pull, whether it's this way or this way, again, as long as it's joint friendly, and then some type of lower body triple extension from the ankle to the knee to the hip. So you're extending your legs outward. Maybe that's a leg press, maybe that's a squatting movement, and hopefully some type of hinging, or we have we still haven't released this, but I'll tell you, we have a trap bar deadlift attachment now too that we designed, which I'm very excited about. So I'm not sure if you're overly familiar with that style of deadlift, but to me, it's the most biomechanically proper deadlift. And I do think that people, for the most part, should make sure that they're not ignoring their lower back when they're training.
Yeah, sure. I think I've seen something. Drew Bay is using this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think Doug integrates trap bar deadlift sometimes too himself. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a question of variety. My intention is to start with the big 5 because of also the learning curve.
For sure.
So, which is easy exercise. So to start learning, and then for variety, because after a while maybe people want something.
Yeah, but for consistency's sake and learning and comparing apples to apples, if you will, and we have. One customer in particular, we have numerous customers, but one in particular I'm thinking of that's all they do there is the big 5. They don't do anything else, so yeah.
Very, very routine.
Yes.
I've been asked a lot of questions about talking about the protocol, big 5 protocol now. Sweat. So people say, okay, I'm not doing hard work because I'm not sweating so hard. So in your experience with clients, I know that I know already the answer, but just so your experience is after a few exercise, couple, 2, 3, 4 exercise on the ARX, I think they are exhausted, but what's your experience with the sweat?
Yeah, well, I mean, sweating is not necessarily indicative of a great workout, as we know. But some people, what I've discovered, some people sweat no matter what, right? It doesn't matter how cold it is in the room; they're going to sweat. And if people are sweaters, I think they're still going to sweat. So I don't like to say an ARX workout eliminates sweat completely, because there's other variables we can't control. That human, as well as how cool is it, but to the point of, if you're trying to look for a sweat. Look for it on a walk or somewhere else, that might also give you different benefits, or spending time in the sun, as it's been beautiful here in Austin.
I spent 4 years in Houston, Texas. So my son,
you're going to sweat more there.
Yeah, in August. I remember summertime in Houston is something. So we were talking about the importance of resistance exercise. Bone density. So we know that this kind of work against resistance is also. Do you have any data from your client? Anything in particular? Any data gathered about? I don't know. Okay, of course,
and on the bone density front, that's how, I'm sure you might know this, but I feel like it's helpful to know that that's how Super Slow started, was to try to correct osteoporotic patients and try to get their bone density up. So we have some of our customers that either offer or partner with DEXA scans to see that results. And then there's also other readers that, although they might not be quite as much the gold standard, if you will, in terms of measurement, they still use them. So we see routinely, more times than not, that strength gains occur. Usually 50% strength gains in the first 6 months. We routinely see lean muscle tissue gain, and again, that's dependent on the person. And then we also see bone mineral density improvements. And again, that's dependent on the person, but we've seen as much as, I'm going to try to remember how much it was, but it was a pound of bone in, which again, the human skeleton is only like 8 pounds or something. So so a pound is a lot percentage wise. And so yes, we've seen marked improvements in bone mineral density as well. So so again, there's not necessarily, I don't like to say there's just this magic pill and it does everything, but it does a lot. It really does do a lot. Yeah,
for sure. And any difference between men and women? So if any major response?
Well, I mean, I think the hormonal profile is often different. And oftentimes, not all the time, men have the potential to gain more lean muscle tissue and bone density. But again, that proportionally, it's not always that different. It's just in terms of gross gain, if you will, total gain. But what I do also like to say, I feel like it's a myth of sorts that you, especially for women, they can gain too much muscle, and I don't see that very often. It can happen. It can happen. I get it, but most women should not worry about that at all.
Yeah, I agree. Yes, it's a genetic, and also nutrition part is also
for
fundamental.
Sure.
And just a curiosity I have here, just I'm going among the questions. So your cooperation with the NASA and NASA. So what happened? And why?
So NASA periodically will recruit outsiders, people outside of their organization to input various ideas and kind of when they, at the time were looking very seriously at a Mars mission. Now, I'm not sure that the funding is there or the focus is there right now for that, but 2015, 2014, whenever that was, they recruited a group of outsiders to come in and give advice on countermeasures to microgravity or prolonged microgravity. So if you don't know, in a microgravity situation, our bodies deteriorate a lot faster. And so you have to combat that in some way, shape, or form, or in numerous ways. And so because ARX isn't a gravity-based system, we were attractive to them and gave some advice to them about how they could invest in the future of using things like adaptive resistance exercise as part of their countermeasures. And what we faced while we talked to them was that they had spent millions and millions and millions of dollars on their ARED, Advanced Resistance Exercise Device, and it's up on the International Space Station as we speak. I think it was $25 million just for payload alone to fly it up there. So it's a very big device, and it still, in my opinion, has limitations because you have to load on a squat, for example, through the spine and things that are just inefficient, ineffective. So at this point, I can just hope that they'll come back to some of these ideas. And if there is a long-term space flight to Mars, you will need something like ARX to combat the atrophy and the just deterioration that happens to our system when we're in that microgravity for that long. So
long time from now.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I remember one of the interviews about that. I don't know if you or Mike, I don't know, mentions that they ask a lot of questions about vibrations. The vibration, because of course, is a major issue there. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. There are, we can all look at what they've done and kind of poke holes at it and say, oh, that's not good and that's not good. But at the end of the day, I didn't realize how many engineering restrictions and constraints they had, and vibration is one of them. And so, that would mean that the way motors are mounted and you just have to be considerate of all those things, because last thing you want is for some structural element of the the spacecraft to go down because you got the best exercise, but yeah.
Funny. Talking about the pandemic, do you have any thought about the changes in the future and how ARX can contribute?
Yeah, I mean, I think if we focus in on what I'll just call the global fitness market, I think it is going to what I've been observing and hopeful for, honestly, for many years, is that kind of big gym, and again, I'm not sure they're quite as prevalent in Italy as they are in the United States, but we kind of call it a big box gym, but just many machines and rooms and just hundreds of people potentially in a place at once. Those are starting to quite literally die off and go under. Just in the last week, I saw two articles. One that I think Gold's Gym, which is a pretty well-known, it's been well-known since Arnold Schwarzenegger days in Venice Beach, but it is closing. I think it closed 30-something locations, 34 locations or something like that. And then 24-Hour Fitness, which is another big one here. But I think it's potentially going to be going bankrupt and closing all their locations. So it's happening. It is really happening. That what was once kind of the way to go to the gym, if you will, is changing very quickly. And the economics of it, it's not sustainable from an economic perspective, and it's not sustainable from a communicable disease perspective either. And I think that's what we're seeing. So I think on the other side of this, in some ways, I don't think there ever is another side of this, because we will always, in some way, shape, or form, deal with communicable diseases. But we just need to be smarter about it. And one way that we can do that is limit how many people are in exposed areas. And so with exercise and resistance training, ARX is poised to be one of the tools to empower people to do that better. I really like your concept about the mobile gym idea. I'm assuming it's probably just one or two people within the mobile unit at once. And so that is going to be the wave of the future, in my opinion. Smaller facilities and smaller access points to health. And even with hospitals, I was talking to my retired physician father about this, that I'm wondering if hospitals will also scale down. In other words, like, I get it that when there's a surgery, things can go bad really fast if something happens, something goes wrong. So they need an ICU and they need various things there. But maybe orthopedics is separated from obstetricians, and they're we start seeing segmented hospitals as well, where they're smaller. Maybe there's still surgery centers and ICU centers, but but possibly everything will probably go smaller. Yeah.
Yes, multi-containers, like the space ships with small balls connected.
Yes, almost like pods, if you will.
Yeah, pods. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and we've seen some of that with co-working spaces here. The advent and the growth of co-working spaces. Yes, there are still common areas, but there's kind of a lot of pods, a lot of small offices, and I think the expansion of that idea into other areas, we'll start seeing some of that. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you. Just before going, I would like to know more about your workout routine. That we are going at the end of the question. So, workout your routine at this moment in time I assume, is a little bit different, but typical.
Well, yeah. I mean, so here, I'm actually at ARX headquarters now. Yeah. It's not that far from where I live, but it's we have been open because the way that our government body here in Austin views businesses is that some can stay, some are essential, some are non-essential, but there are essential functions within a business. And so managing inventory and doing some of the things that we're doing, we're still sending machines out.
Cool. Good to know.
Mostly to home users, so people buying them for their homes. Has been kind of how we've pivoted a bit just in this time to continue to progress and do our thing. But yeah, so what I like to look at is push, pull, drive. This is what I was alluding to earlier when I'm creating workouts for myself. So what upper body push or press am I going to do?
Yeah.
What upper body pull am I going to do? And then what driving movement am I going to do? So one of my workouts is leg press, chest press, and row on the Alpha machine. So it's all on one machine. That's all I do. I oftentimes do 2 sets of each exercise, just because I know how my body adapts. And we could have a whole nother conversation about failure and some of these concepts, orderly recruitment of fibers. Like, not that these concepts are completely moot, but on ARX they're different. I guess I can leave it at that for now. We could probably have a little bit of time to dive into it. But that is one workout. The other workout is often something like a trap bar deadlift, and then some type of press, maybe an incline press, something more similar in that plane. And sometimes I will throw a row in there as well, or pull down. Or pull over has been my favorite, actually, to throw into that one, because it's not grip intensive. So really, I just kind of rotate some variant of that, almost AB or ABC style. I don't give a lot of variety. I don't think most of us need variety from a physiological perspective as much as we do from a psychological perspective. So I just happen to be a guy that doesn't need a ton of variety with my workouts. And you can compare data better. So if you know what you're doing over and over, and ARX, quantifies everything, you can see what you've done and have comparison quite a bit better and more effectively than if you change something up every single time. There's too many variables.
Fully in line. Yes, it's a matter of the boring. People get bored.
Yeah, and one of the things, the concepts that I think Ken Hutchins, there's many contributions he made, but one of the concepts of exercise versus recreation is something that I think is very powerful to understand. Just once someone understands that I went and played tennis for exercise. No, that's not really exercise. That's something you like. That's recreation. So just that concept should be adopted and known. And so how that fits into exercise is, I feel like the prescriptions can be fairly simple, fairly basic, and they don't need a lot of variety. The variety can come from, I like to ride my bike. I like to, walk on the beach, whatever it is. So
it's always the same concept, like minimum effective dose. So it's not exceeding in order not to cause more harm than
and we have some research that will be starting at universities here in the States here coming soon. I say soon. That always takes so long, but you triggered my mind when you said minimum effective dose. We're going to be looking at both athletic populations as well as kind of untrained populations, and looking at really trying to dive in to explore what that minimum effective dose is, and coming up with these prescriptions, if you will, for the population, so that we're not saying, well, you need to do these 10 things just because, and we're comparing it actually in one of the studies to the American College of Sports Medicine's recommendations of what the resistance training should be. And it's, in our opinion, we're like, that's a lot. It's a lot of volume. We still think ARX will perform better, even though the other side will have quite a bit more total volume. But I think the dose is going to be what's important here.
I read a lot of studies about intensity training, Jibala in the Canadian. So you cannot compare. Of course, the guidelines should be general. They have to say something. They cannot then go to the specific into, if you do the 1 minute workout or using the ARX, things will be different. Sure. What do you think about the responders, not responders? Do you believe in there are responders and non-responders?
Yeah, I mean, I think, oftentimes to me that is based on genetic phenotype. So the mesomorphs, for example, do respond oftentimes to resistance training more than endomorph or an ectomorph. But I think everyone responds a little differently. But I think if you're looking for just kind of a general rule of thumb of who's going to respond and not, I oftentimes see that the mesomorphic body type will respond faster. But I think over the long haul, in terms of, let's look at a lifetime of resistance training and a lifetime of generally trying to be healthy with what you eat and getting your sleep and all these things that we now know, managing your stress. So I think if you look at kind of over a lifetime, I think there's a lot of similarities. I am not really convinced that over a lifetime, a mesomorph is going to have a huge advantage over a lifetime. They might have advantages in peaks, so they might have advantages in when they first start, and they might have advantages in athletics because they're just more powerful. And but again, if you're talking global and lifetime, I think it's powerful for everyone and beneficial for everyone to do resistance exercise in the safe, effective, efficient manner. And again, over the lifetime, everyone will have benefits, even though maybe it took them a little bit longer to get there. So yeah.
Yeah, I fully agree. Yeah, thank you. For what concerns ARX organization and plans for the future, you any plans for the future?
Well, like I said, I mean, as we sit here with the coronavirus and quarantine, we are still helping people by mostly getting ARX machines into homes. But yeah, we have plans to continue to grow. We do have some international customers, but we haven't intentionally gone after international growth at this point, but we will soon in the coming years, and want to have more of a European presence first. And so we want to partner with guys like you and other people to continue to grow internationally, and we want to be able to use the data for meaningful purposes. So because we're quantifying everything, there's a lot of potential to be prescriptive, as we alluded to earlier, with programs and what people need, and evaluating that, and then overlaying that with with other biomarkers and other health measures to make sure what we are doing on ARX are aligning well with the other modalities. And so hopefully we are empowering people to change the face of what this exercise is and what that looks like. And as I alluded to earlier, the big gyms are starting to die. So we are hopeful that these smaller, more nimble, simple facilities will pop up more and more. And it's been neat to see so far. I mean, kind of been doing this for 20 plus years. And just in the last, handful of years with ARX, and, ARX is the right tool for that job. Fully
agree with you. And when you talk about other parameters, are you talking about HRV, for example? So to match
as we both have our I mean, I think rest and recovery aren't super sexy topics, if you will, but they're so important. And so I think, we need to integrate what I guess I would say the useful biometric data that we can get. And there's a lot of wearables now. We both have our Oura rings there, but there are other metrics that are helpful. HRV is one that is helpful for how well you're recovered. And should you go work out again? And so it's pretty much across the board. And I've tracked this for months and months now. If HRV is down, the workout's going to be down. Or if HRV is down, I'm gonna give myself another rest day. But the data behind it, like Eric can produce, like Oura can produce, the data behind it is helpful. I think there are some people that are more gifted just knowing themselves, kind of how they feel, but and usually the data does support how you feel. If you are, one of those that kind of just can intuitively feel that, but having the data helps a lot.
Good. We are quite at the end, so I just have a couple of questions. I know Jim Keane is director of fun. I really don't understand what does it mean.
We don't either. You answer that for now. He's a guy that he was a performer, a musician in his previous life, and then he came to ARX first as a customer and had a very small facility in Chicago with just an older Omni. And he is the guy, he calls himself the director of fun, but we need to take ourselves more lightly at times, and he's the guy that helps us, right?
That's cool.
I can be more serious. Mike can be more serious, but Jim, he helps us in that department.
In my organization, I want to add this. Just talking about the organization. So how big is your structure? How are you structured? You have, I don't know.
Yeah, we're all of our team is in the United States. We're headquartered in Austin, Texas, where I am now, and that's where our operations are. We get parts fabricated at various locations. They come in-house, and then we do final assembly and quality control and integration here in-house before they ship out the door. Now, whether they ship out the door to international hubs or they just get on trucks and are driven, it just depends on where the customer is. And so we do have sales and marketing in Florida as well, St. Petersburg, Florida. So Jason and Ryan are there. There's a showroom there, and a lot of our sales and marketing efforts come out of there. So we are looking to continue to grow, to have the right strategic partners and investors in the coming months to make sure that we're doing it in a smart way, sustainable way, and again, thankfully we're past. I mean, there's always difficulties and challenges in a business, but we're past a lot of those. Are we going to make it? When you go out to do something like this, it always takes more time, always costs more money than you think. And so, yes, we're past some of those hurdles. There will always be hurdles, but I really like where we are. And I really like, even though this pandemic is going on, I think the opportunity to have the smaller, more nimble footprint facilities is going to be there. And so I just want to see more people doing like what you're doing. And I just was had an email with someone in New York kind of asking the same thing about this mobile idea, because even that I think has a lot of potential with what we've seen. Is that a better way? It's definitely one way for sure. So yeah,
that's cool. To find out more, I know that there is a ARX Fit website.
ARXfit.com is probably the simplest way. There's our social media links that are there. I feel like our YouTube channel is valuable because it's an experiential product. So once you try it, you understand it a lot more. But videos still help. So we have, I hope, a lot of informative videos on our YouTube channel. Various playlists. If you are new to ARX, you can do the ARX 101, kind of the beginner playlist, and just kind of dive into there. So that is where you find out more.
Okay, so that's all for today. If you have anything to add, just feel free. If not, we can close here.
Yeah, no, I think just the high intensity training concept has been, I guess you would say, known, the benefit for a long time. I think it's just taken some years to refine it, taken some years to realize how it needs to come to market. And I think we're really, really close now. Of course, there will be adaptations and refinements along the way, but I'm excited to see the future. Even though, like I said, we're in kind of these times where everyone's, reflecting and having to deal with what's going on in the world. But I do think that the future is bright, doing these types of high intensity training facilities, and hopefully using ARX and some other modalities that are helpful. So, yeah. Thanks a lot for this. This was fun.
Ehi tu. Sì, proprio tu, sto parlando con te. Tu che hai visto questo video. Hai cliccato qui. Hai cliccato lì, su, giù, su, in giro. Hai girato, hai cliccato dove devi cliccare, ti sei subscribed, hai condiviso. Se l'hai fatto? Bene. Ma se non lo avessi fatto?